video blog, Chi-Town, where this street right here, that car roaring down the street, at the end of this street, it curves off into the highway. A car flew down this street on a Friday or Saturday night, and they had the video on YouTube because there was somebody outside, and the car crossed over, I think it's Orleans at the end, and it couldn't make the left bend, and it lost control and hit the pole and shattered and killed the driver. Now, the car was not the driver's. The driver of the car borrowed it. It was somebody else's car. He wasn't the regular driver of the car. And the car was a performance car, and he didn't have the capabilities. He wasn't the regular driver. He borrowed it from a friend. And he went flying down this street, Ohio, at 100 miles an hour. 100 miles an hour. And at that next light is where he crashed and died. But that car flying down the street, do you know what could happen if they lose control and you got crowded sidewalks? Now, this is a bonus because the entrance for Spy Bar and Sound Bar are not on main streets. And then they can pair the line right down this building right here, Prestige Design. The line can go down this building and wrap around the corner. And they can put up an outside thing talking to them. They would have to put it up and take it down, but they can put up a portable and, how do you say, tent, basically. They would roll it out, prop it up. It is a tent. And then you take down the supports and you fold up. The doorman can do this. And the people can walk into the tent and stay out of the wind and the cold, making nightclubs feasible in the winter. See, this is the Midwest. And what happens, people aren't going to wait in line. What we did at Baja is we had an agreement with the mall that we can run our line through the mall. So even in the winter, and this is why we did about 14 million, in today's dollars, about 34 million a year in beverage sales. So the thing is, these places, they don't have it, and people have to stand outside and freeze. Now, the Dome Room, which was part of Excalibur, we had an area where people could come in, but it wasn't for the Excalibur side. It was for the Dome Room, and we could only hold so many people, and I'll go by and see if they have it up. But this is why these places don't do well in the wintertime. Now, this one has a little outside thing, that little enclosure they extend. But again, it's not much. And all down the line here, people won't wait outside because they freeze. Even if you valet park, they drop off at the door and you're waiting outside. The only way it could work opposite of that is do open table, and they show up with their reservation and you got to let them in. But the thing is, you don't know when people are going to leave. So that means everybody coming in, you would have to set an exit time for. So they can only be in the club in 2 hours and they got to leave. Most people don't want that. They want to go, they'll wait their time in line, and then they want to go in and determine when they want to leave. And so, again, now bottle service at a table, if you have the table and you have to order, and if you don't reorder, then you have to leave the table. You only have the table for so long, depending on the amount of time you ordered. So if you order enough, you get the table for the night. But if you're ordering like a single bottle in that, your friends might only have the table for 2 hours. Might be 1 hour for a single bottle, depending on how many people with you. If you have 8 people with you and you order 1 bottle, that's 2 drinks per hour. And so that's 16 drinks. And usually with mixes and everything else, you're pretty much through a bottle. So if you have 8 people with you, you might only have the table for an hour and a half at the max. And then if you don't re-up, you have to leave, and not leave the club. You just have to get up from the table. And you can go into the general club. See, down here, we get tailgaters. You're not allowed to ride my ass. A smart individual would go around. Somebody stoking the flames. If I parked the car, I just went over the legal code. I have grounds to get out of the car and beat the living fucking shit out of them. It's called temporary insanity. Impulse controlled. So just because people don't do it, and it says right here, they get off. Just like my friend when he beat the guy to death on the highway. He got manslaughter and went in. But if I beat you silly and I don't kill you, then I'm not going to jail at all. The only reason he went to jail, as the court said, because he killed the guy. If he just beat the living fucking shit out of him, he would have got off. The guy incited him. Not only cut him off, but fingered him and everything else. And the court ruled in his favor. So when you're tailgating somebody and doing this, you're taking at their risk that they have impulse controlled. Some people don't have as much impulse, and it rules by impulse controlled. And if you have, now it crosses over, if you don't have that impulse control, then it crosses over to mental health. And they don't go to jail, they might go to a mental health facility. But you're still all fucked up. So do you really want to go there? That's why I don't tailgate. That's why I don't do these things. I understand these standards, and I don't provoke. Our founding fathers who created the Constitution, they understood these things. So they don't provoke. That's why it tells you can't incite. Because these standards, you end up fucked up or dead. And that person walks. So do you really want to take your life into that situation where you're the one inciting, poking the bear, and the law defends the person that gets poked? It's called self-defense. When you incite somebody and you go on, assault, you don't even have to touch somebody, and you can defend yourself from assault. So do you really want to poke the bear? So these people are morons. When somebody was upset, I let them get their piece and let them explain and articulate the reason. But speaking here, you have an outside. Here they have a little thing. But again, just going by these clubs, they don't have outside where people can stand and wait without freezing. So this is why if you look at club numbers in Arizona, or you go to California, or you go down to Florida, unless you get the summer and those people want to be inside, like at Disney World during July and August, it's very slow in comparison. People don't want to be outside because it's 100% humidity and 100 degrees. And it's very unbearable for older people, for young kids, pregnant women, people with any medical conditions. So they don't. But the thing, getting back to this is what people don't understand. You are taking your life into your own hands when you're the aggressor. Like the Mexican at my complex, he went from walking in the door all the way down to the sidewalk, assaulting me, coming to me. I never walked towards him. I walked out of my house. I walked straight to the trash can. He's a narcissist. I wasn't addressing him in general. I'm frustrated at my situation. I wasn't addressing him at all. He's a narcissist who assumed that I was addressing him. He didn't even say, "Are you talking to me?" No, I'm not talking to you. Like the black guy did at Potbelly's. He was at the front, I was at the back. He said, "Are you talking to me?" No. "Did you say black?" I said white. Two kids behind the counter clearly heard me. Then he came back and aggressively towards me, threatening me inside. And the two white kids, they just stood there and watched, didn't do anything. He came back. He was leaving the door. He turned around and came back in aggressively after me. And then I'm like, I said white. I was talking to the two kids behind. You asked me if I was talking to you. No. You asked me if I said black. I didn't. They heard me. I even said that. And then he's still aggressively threatening me. So I'm like, whatever. And I left the Potbelly's and got in my car. And then he aggressively, like this guy, "You can't do this. You have to wait in line." Like the guy I was driving today, he's going 10 miles an hour down the street. I go 10 miles an hour. And I stay more than 3 cars behind him. More than 3 cars behind him. He's first. I'm not. I can turn off on a side street. Or I get to wait. And I waited. And then he turned left. He put on his flashers, then turned left. You don't get to do what they're doing. They don't get to do what they're doing. I'm not inciting. They are tailgating me, and they are inciting. Now he's biting me. They're in the wrong. They're not an ambulance. You're not an emergency vehicle, you fucking piece of fucking crap. Look at him. He mocks me. But the thing is, the cops don't bust him. He doesn't get any charges. And what does it say under the law? Everything you say can and will be held against you in a court of law related to civil or criminal or both. But someone like me gets very frustrated because they just drive away and they get away with it. All of them just fucking get away with it. So why did the guardian angels come about? People are sick and fucking tired of them getting away with it. Why did the vigilantes come about? Why did the skinheads, Aryan Nation, and everything else come about? Sick and fucking tired of them getting away with it. And I'm particularly talking about the origins of those groups. I'm not talking MS-13. They were a criminal organization. These were extremist groups who were sick and tired of people getting away with it. Total different foundation. But you don't understand. You don't read the origins of different groups and why they formed. They formed to push back, like the Tea Party. They were sick and tired of the government spending the money liberally, and they formed the Tea Party, a conservative movement within the Republican Party, much more conservative than the general Republican Party. My friend Lance was. It was the push back at government waste and spending money inappropriately. It was an extremist group pushing back. So you have to understand. You would say Black Lives Matter but there is no one hurting them. They're fucking lazy pieces of fucking garbage. Everywhere I worked, they weren't the hardest working people there. Nowhere. I replaced a black guy at my financial service firm, and everybody said he went to Yale, he was a lazy motherfucker. And I took over his cases and looked, he was a lazy motherfucker. He got all this government freebie. Just like our porters. I did my management job. I don't even run the porters. I do my fucking management job. I'm running the door. I'm running the servers, the bartenders, and I got to run the freaking black porters. And they call everybody fucking racist. The Mexicans, it didn't matter. Everybody was a racist. And I show them their job things and their instructions and what they're supposed to do and the rate of keeping the trash clean and the floors clean, picking up the stuff. And I did it alongside with them. And I'm doing like 5 fucking jobs every night. I'm doing Kenny's job, Jerry's job, I'm all over the place, running like crazy. And I work like 18-hour days. And then I got to run the trash with them. I pick up drinks on the table as I'm on the floor. Truly, because I'm part of it, management. I don't pass by things. If I see a plate, if I see empty glassware, I pick it up. And then I drop it in the service well. Or I drop it in the kitchen. I scrape it off and I put it into the busing station. I put the glasses where they need be, even managing. And then I'm running trash and I'm running ice and I'm wearing nice clothing. And some of my clothing got ruined helping them out, doing their job. And then not only did they do that, they couldn't do their job. And they complained every freaking night. I got them a $5 extra. I had tips from the bartenders and that, giving them about $100 a piece in cash every night. And they still complain. And not only did they complain, I caught several of them stealing purses and stealing stuff. My partner David, he's Asian. He quit helping in Austin. Couldn't stand it anymore. The chip on their shoulder. Everybody's racist. No, you're just a lazy piece of fucking scum. It isn't racism. You're just a fucking deadbeat. They were stealing purses. As they pulled the trash out, if they saw a purse there, they would dump it into the trash and then go through it in the trash room. So I busted them. But you know how many of them truly went to jail? None. Not them, not the porters. People that I caught independently that were basically clients coming in there, customers, they went to jail. The porters should have been charged even greater. What happened at Export? The black guys broke into my locker that worked in the locker room. They were running a scam. The porters were. I thought it was outside people. No, it was the 2 black guys that were working the locker room. They were watching and spotting. One would spot to make sure, go through, make sure the lockers are empty. Then the other one would watch the door, and then the other one would break into the lockers. This is true fucking shit. I didn't make this shit up. And I was suffering greatly, busting my ass, doing it everything I could do to give them another chance, to help them out, to make their life easier and better. Driving myself crazy trying to help them. Literally. And Kenny, one day, he had enough of it. He ran the Porters. I didn't. So he told me to tell him, and it's his department, he tells me to tell him to gather him up after the end of the night. And I did, after done with the trash and everything. And he gathered them all up, and he said, "You're all fired." He fired them as a group. And he's like, "Exit now." And security was there, but they walked out. And they said some things, but they just walked out. But the whole thing is, I'm busting my ass. And Kenny turned to me. He's like, "I couldn't take it anymore. You're doing unbelievable things for these people, and they're spitting all the fuck over you. I can't stand it." And he said, "I just fired them all. Gotta get rid of them. They fucked you over so much that watching you get fucked over continuously, bending over backwards, doing everything you can for them, doing their fucking job, and they still spit all over you." And so Kenny Rosenbach, he's Jewish. He had his fuse busted. He couldn't take them shitting all over me anymore. So he fired them all. I said, "What are we going to do for Porters?" He said, "Don't worry. I'll hire a bunch of Hispanics tomorrow, and they won't talk back." He hired the Hispanics, no talking back. Keep your head down, do your job. They worked out better, and they didn't steal the purses and everything. So I had no problem with stealing with my Hispanic dishwashers or bussers. They never stole. They didn't steal any clients' purses, any clients' anything. Not any of my Hispanics, Charlie's, Baja, no, none of them stole. And I'm talking bussers, porters, barbacks. They didn't steal. Lots of stealing from blacks and whites. So, I had lots of whites, cocktails, bartenders stealing. But I'll give it to Hispanic. I'm not talking bartenders and cocktail. That's a different. I'm just talking about the dishwashers and busboys and barbacks. They didn't steal. Now, when you get into the bartenders and that, well, yeah, I had problems with Hispanic bartenders and cocktails. But at the lower level, they didn't steal. And they worked, and they didn't give me any problems. No talking back to me, no disrespecting me. Big difference. But the funny thing is, I had people that would eventually stand up for me because they saw what was going on and they just wouldn't take it anymore. Just like my friend Matt King. He watched me bend over backwards for people. From the University of Arizona, he knew me. From 1988, the summer. And we were best friends. And he watched me bend over backwards, helping people all over the place. And doing things for them. And so, if somebody disrespected me, he would want to hurt them immediately. Because in his mind, I don't deserve. I bent over backwards. He's seen my charitable work. He's seen stuff I posted on Facebook. He's seen all these things, and he's seen it before that. And to him, if you disrespect me, he would hurt you severely. It wouldn't even be a question. He doesn't give a fuck who you are. But it's funny. I come around here and I've done so much for this fucking city, from Gateway Green to Chicago Cares to unbelievable amounts of charities, urban ministries, Pacific Gardens, you name it, for this fucking city. These motherfuckers have done nothing. And so I don't understand why they wouldn't just get the fuck beat out of them. If you disrespect me like an Uber driver or cab driver, that would be it. It would be over with. That would be the righteous thing to do, because they've done nothing for this city. They've failed this city. And they're further inciting. I don't go around inciting them. They go around tailgating and inciting me. It's like fucking black people walking across the street when it's a green light and giving me the finger and telling me to go fuck myself. You've done nothing for the city. You're a fucking scumbag fucking loser. And then you're giving me the finger and tell me when I have the right of way. You're a fucking scumbag piece of shit. So I don't get it. Before I had, just like when the white kid, I'll give you a white kid. I told him to go home at Excalibur. I told him to go home. I begged and pleaded with him to go home. He was overserved. I told him he can't get in. You're overserved. You're too drunk. You need to go home. He kept shaking the fence. And I kept on telling him to go home. You're not getting in. And then he got aggressive physically to me. He physically threatened me. Got aggressive. And that snapped. And when Dave and them saw that I got, and they never saw, they went and grabbed him. And then Sang lost it and beat the living shit out of him in the middle of the street. But in their mind, I don't deserve any disrespect. I'm begging and pleading with this kid to go home. And not just minutes, literally over an hour plus. Constantly telling him he's not getting in and go home. Stop shaking the fence. Because we have little posts and he's shaking them. And then he physically goes to assault me. And I go to defend myself. And as I went to defend myself, they all jumped in before. And then Sang lost it and beat the shit out of him. But in their minds, I don't deserve any disrespect in any way, shape, or form. And if somebody disrespected me, they would lose it. Because I helped them all out. I did lots of good things. I handled the clients. I took a lot of shit. I don't deserve any disrespect. So that's when I had friends around. Whether if I was around Coaster or somebody else and you disrespected me, they beat the living shit out of you. I don't have to ask them. It is just done. So there's no inciting. You're attacking me. And I don't deserve to be disrespected. I don't deserve to be attacked. And these are people, my friends all over the country. When I'm in Cancun, my friends that ran the island and the friends that ran the club, they used to send me home with the federales. And if anyone messed with me, I have 2 armed cops that would fuck them up. Oh, yes, they knew if anyone fucked with me, those cops, those Mexican federales, they would fuck you up in a heartbeat. So they didn't give me taxi cabs. The cops drove me home multiple times. I went to Cancun multiple times. And they wanted to make sure that no one messed with me. They didn't trust the cab drivers. And they vet them. But the federales would just take me home. And they were super nice to me. Super nice. But if you disrespected me in any way, those federales would have beat the living fuck out of you. And I mean beat the living fuck out of you. And then once they're done, they would throw you in jail. And who knows when they would let you out. You would have made an extreme mistake. It's just like they said in Ghana, and you're not kidding. If you did something to me, it would be unbelievably an extreme mistake, and you would be hurt severely. But that's when there's a righteous and moral conscience. Or Trump, what the fuck has Trump did from childhood? Did he go around cleaning up New York? Truly. Did he go around working with beautification programs as a child? I cleaned up this city as a child. I worked with beautification programs, cleaning up, benefiting this city, and doing all this from childhood. What did Trump do for New York City? He was a developer sticking money in his pocket. But I mean, altruistically, what did he do? Where was he as a kid, altruistically, standing up against injustice and putting his fucking ass on the line? I had to stand up against all these freaking gangs. Hispanic gangs, black gangs, Asian gangs, white gangs. And now I'm going to tell you a secret. You have to know who you're dealing with. Because if you're dealing with MS-13, to be in the gang itself, they have to kill. So it's like I learned with enforcers in the mafia. It's a different type of ball game. They've already crossed that moral paradigm. So killing you, it's no big deal to them. So to cross that paradigm is very easy. So you have to understand who you're dealing with. And I work with biker gangs, enforcers and that. And you have to understand that these people cross over very fast. And putting you under, they wouldn't hesitate. It's not like somebody else who's in a struggle with a moral conflict. They don't have a moral conflict anymore. And I'll put it on Tumblr, the research with it, and I'll show you. They don't have this anymore. It's about getting away with it and covering it up. They already crossed the paradigm. They've done the murder. They've covered it up. They moved on. And so when you're interacting with these people, they move very quick to ultra-violence. They don't have this moral paradigm. They've crossed it. It's just like a rapist. Why they did it, when they do it for these criminal aspects, then they don't have a moral dilemma with their action. and they become serial rapists or serial criminals. It's about sneaky Pete. It's about covering it up. Stealing, they have no problem with stealing. They've already crossed that threshold. Rebuilding that paradigm takes a lot of concerted effort. And will it actually be put in place like Paul? But remember, Paul wasn't a murderer. And the disciples, they weren't criminals. Unlike Judas, he was non-repentant from the beginning. So Judas selling out Jesus was no big deal. Crossing that threshold, taking the money, he never had any remorse. He continued to do it with the disciples. He continued. And so, are you Jesus? Meaning, not you. Are you Judas? And I'm talking about not repenting and not having a come to Jesus and stop doing negative things to me and atoning for your sins. And God's watching, because the purpose is he's watching. Do you have a moral compass inside you? Or are you that corrupt that you will continue on with deception and lies until the day I die? And you won't do righteous and just things, and you'll keep on proxy warring me and keep on screwing me over out of what is righteously mine. And he's watching, because if you have that lack of moral, and I'll put it on Tumblr and you'll see what I'm talking about. If you're those individuals, then you all die. That's it. It's the end of mankind. Because just as David talked about me, there's a point where you just repent. You get down on your knees and you beg for forgiveness. And it's begging for your eternal life. What do you think you get down on your knees in church? You're begging. When you're praying, you're begging for your life. You're begging for your eternal life. You're humbling yourself, getting down on your knees, and literally begging. Because you are a beggar. And that acknowledges the relationship, principal agent. That you won't bite the hand that feeds you. Just like my dog. My dog wouldn't dare bite me. No matter what. If he was starving to death, he wouldn't bite me. But I wouldn't torture my dog to find out. I had other ways. When he was eating his food, I would stick my hand in his mouth. Now, I'm not recommending this, but I make a fist and stick it in at the opening of his mouth in between bites, and then I would move it inward. And initially, he tried to chew, and as I moved it inward, he couldn't close as much, and he never broke my skin. He just stopped. He would stop chewing, and he would just wait for me to pull my hand away. He would hold his mouth open, wait for me to pull my hand away. Because I wanted to make sure he chose me over his food. I didn't need to starve him, and he wasn't starving. But I want him to make rational choices, and I need to teach him to make rational choices. My dog would never eat out of anything that wasn't in his bowl and had my scent on it. If you touched his food, he wouldn't eat it. My roommate Derek never touched his food. My roommate Craig never touched his food, never touched their bowls, his bowl, his water bowl or his food bowl. If you touched his bowl, he wouldn't eat it. If it had anyone else's scent on it but mine, he wouldn't touch it. And he wouldn't eat out of anything but the bowls. So I could eat at table, eat my food in peace and quiet. He never begged for anything. I come down here and I get something, and I have the homeless begging. My dog didn't beg. They're pure filth and disgust in God's eyes. They're lower than my dog. They are subhuman. When they're lower than a human, they're subhuman, below. And they're lower than my dog, who knows not to beg, not to even think of taking food off of my table. He wouldn't dare. I can leave food out. He doesn't go into the garbage. He doesn't take the food off the table. He will only eat what's in his bowl, what is provided for him, and that is it. And he would let me know when he wanted to go to the washroom. If I was sleeping, he would nudge me with a nose. One time he flipped my arm up and almost dislocated my shoulder when I was sleeping, because he had to go really bad. So I knew. He poked me, flipped my arm up really hard. He put his nose under and flipped it up to wake me up. But I got right up. I didn't hit him. He had to go. He didn't mean to do it that hard. He just really had to go to the bathroom. So I jumped out of bed, put on my clothes, put on the leash, and took him out immediately. I understood why he was doing it. Are you more intelligent than a dog? Because most of these people can't figure out why a dog or a baby's crying. They can't decipher through body language and that why a baby's crying, if their tummy's hurting, if you need to burp them, or their diaper needs to be changed, or they're wet, or if something else is irritating them. Well, I'm able to. I understand. But do they teach you body language of babies? The silent language? They can't speak for themselves. I learned this with my dog. I learned to understand as I was teaching Jen how to understand. So I don't need my dog to speak to me. I trained him and he can communicate. And I understand if he has urgency. So I can rationalize this. How intelligent are you? In an IQ test, do they really test people this way? Because they should. Because you think people are really smart. I think they're really fucking dumb. They're oblivious to all these cues in front of them. Oblivious. Just like going in and dealing with, in the water, with aquatic life, swimming with sharks, which I've done in Disney, and I wanted to know why the sharks never left the bottom. Well, first of all, their food is at the bottom of the tank, and second of all, they overfeed the sharks. So they don't care. But there's also no blood in the water. See, blood in the water can override their satiation. So if a woman goes in the water and it's that special time and they put blood in the water, even if the shark isn't hungry, they could go manic. And it will override their impulse control because they ate. They're not hungry anymore. But if you put something really good in front of them, chum, and you know, chum goes with a lot of blood, you know, blood and guts, then it can override that sensation. Where did I find this out? Look at this piece of fucking garbage. And this is what I mean. They just get away with it. So you I found this out in Singer Island when we went fishing, and they come back and they clean the fish, and I watch the different types of shark, and they come in right there where they clean, and they drop all the chum in the water because they're gutting the fish. And I told them, why are you doing this in the harbor? Why are you putting the chum in the water? You can sell that chum for bait. You have to chill it, but all those guts and that from the fish can be chum that you use to catch fish. You use as bait. But it's other fish. It's not human. But what they were doing, and I told them, you're bringing all these sharks into the harbor, right up to the shoreline, because they cut open the fish and they dump it in. And this is what happens with the rivers. When they put blood and all that stuff into the rivers, they cut the meat and everything. And as my friend Todd went to China, and they dump all this waste like we did from the meat packing plants, while China and India, they dump it right into the freaking streams. Or they put it outside. So what do you get? You get snakes, like I think it's not the boa constrictor, python. And they come in and they eat little babies. They eat little dogs, pigs, small animals, but babies. And the reason they come up on the villages, because the villages make it very hard for them to eat, because they don't go to the grocery store. They go hunting. They don't have hunting license and hunting season in India, in all these little towns, just like they did in Ghana. And so you have these predators, and you have the humans taking away their food supply. And then the humans are leaving waste. Like they say, don't feed the bears. And then they seal the trash cans and everything. But the humans go out there hunting, and they strip away, like salmon in Alaska and that the bears eat. Well, you got to be very careful about how many salmon you take. Because first and foremost, before humans, the bears should get their own. Humans can eat all kinds of different fish, meat, pig, chicken. You don't need to strip away their food supply. So you got to be very careful with this situation. Because if not, the bears don't get a lot of food. And I posted on Facebook a picture of these two individuals the bears ate. Because one way or another, they're going to eat. And if you take all their food away, then you become the food. And that's what happens in India. They don't have hunting licenses in the small villages. And they just go out there and they kill wild game. And this is why all these species are going extinct. Like in Africa and everything else. Because the governments didn't control their populations. And they didn't control their resources correctly, and they were corrupt. And people went in, like when I went to Ghana. It's peaceful in that, but still I realized there were really no wild animals. And why? Because they don't have hunting licenses. You can just go out and kill whatever you want and eat it. We have deer hunting season, and you can only take so much. You have to get a hunting license in Alaska, and you can only, Jay went up there with Joe, my other friend, and they can only take so much. But they got bears first. Eagles first. Those that are given the most have the greatest responsibility. You don't come before them. They come before you. Mountain lions, in California and that. They come first. You don't go hunting and taking their food sources. And then they come down and they attack the cattle and that, because just like in Wyoming, you went hunting and you took all their food sources, and now you have all the cattle there. Well, I'm a wolf. I'm going to eat your cattle. You stole all my food. I'm going to take my food back. And so I'm going to eat your cattle. So I didn't agree with them shooting the wolves in Yellowstone, sending the wrong effing message. Stop effing with their food source and they'll stop messing with yours. They don't want to have anything to do with you. You make it a necessity for them. Just like all the tailgating and all the unrighteous action against me. You know, I startle very easy. Do you know why I startle very easy? Because I'm always hyper vigilant. Fight or flight. I've been fighting since I was 6 years old. Literally almost every single day in a physical altercation. I didn't start. Somebody else started, like my friend Jimmy Quinn started with his mouth. And to defend him, because he would start with kids that were much older than him. Upperclassmen. And they could kick the living shit out of him, and sometimes did when I wasn't around. But I was fighting other people's battles. So God watches. If you allow these people to do this shit to me, and you don't take it to them and fight my battles, you all burn. If you give them the freedom to disrespect me, and I'm telling you, I think most of you are already going to hell. He's just sitting back and recording. Who's going to burn? You unrighteous pieces of garbage. I drove in the city all the time. I lived in the city. I never got tailgated in the city. Do you know that? Not from taxi cabs or anything else. Not once. And the funny thing is, maybe they smelled the scent. I was fully physical, meaning pumping 500 pounds, 10 times, lifting, and martial arts, boxing, wrestling, you name it, in weapons training. They never did. Truly, I never had a incident, one incident. And when the other people hit me, they got out begging for my forgiveness. And this is later, like the Arab Uber driver hit me at the light. He begged and begged and begged and begged for me to forgive him. He begged and pleaded, please, as a Christian, please forgive me, Michael. Please, I'm sorry, Michael. I beg you for your forgiveness. He begged me, just as the others did. They begged for my forgiveness, and I mean seriously begging. I don't give a fuck about your cops. They're fucking pieces of fucking garbage. When we're doing a comparison test on a moral and ethical ground test, and the funny thing is, they used to all bow down to me. Because where I was in moral and ethics and where they were garbage in comparison. And they understood just because they had a badge and a gun didn't make them morally and ethically above me. And when a cop goes to church, he bows down to the pastor and the priest. Why? Because he's not morally and ethically above them. They're above him. So they humble themselves and bow down. Big difference. Now you've been running all these people at me like somehow they're morally and ethically above me. They're not above me. And you're going to burn. You violate me so greatly, it's unbelievable. And you let them constantly, on a daily basis, get away with it. And do you know how frustrating it is when you follow all the laws to a T? And I research and I post? I follow all the laws to a T. And I watch all these mothers get away with it. Jaywalking, stealing, lying, cheating, deceiving, and violating all these things. When I got kicked out of my apartments, like John, he paid the rent, but our landlord lied. Mark, we had to move out of Mark's. We couldn't afford the rent anymore. And we moved into Orleans with 6 people. 2 of us and 4 other guys. So we could afford to stay in the city. So 6 of us lived together. Making it affordable. And we left the places impeccable. Well, I did. John didn't. I did all the cleaning and everything. Even when Stephen evicted us, I left the place impeccable. Any place I lived in, when I moved out, I left that place impeccable. Spotless. It's an ethical code with me. No matter, Stephen, I can go over and give you in Arizona. You can ask my roommates. Eric didn't clean the place when we moved out and moved into the new place. He cleaned his room. I cleaned the whole freaking house and picked up outside when we moved to another property. So it's a big difference. There is a big difference in moral and ethical standing. And you have these people breaking the law left and right, driving me crazy, and I go around there and they're blowing stop lines, they're blowing stop signs, they're blowing stoplights, they're jaywalking, they're throwing trash in the street, they're spitting, they're blowing their noses everywhere. I go into a place, they shit in the middle of the bathroom at the Jewel on Clark. Shit in the middle of the bathroom. I walk in and there's a pile of shit in the middle of the fucking bathroom. Somebody shit in the middle of the fucking bathroom. This is years ago, but after 16, about 18 or so, and they literally shit in the middle of the bathroom. And I walk in, then they shit all over the toilet. They piss all over the ground. They piss all over the toilet seat. It is fucking sickening. And I don't understand this. So, how can they constantly get away with this? Truly, how can they get away with this? How can they constantly violate all this and get away with this? And it's driving me crazy. Every day, you take away my licenses, my CFP, my CKP, my many others, all these designations. You take them all away from me. You take my securities business away. You take my life away. You impoverish me. You screw me over. You steal my credit cards. They stole my credit cards. I didn't steal anyone's credit cards ever. They stole my credit cards, and we're talking before 16. And then after 16, making illegal charges on my accounts, destroying my property, threatening me, sending me to court, and they don't show up in court. I go to court in Buffalo Grove, and they're like, oh, the complaining party is not there. But you have the video of the situation, you said. That's what the cop said. They turned over the video. So the prosecutor can just use the video as evidence and can proceed without the complaining witness. But they're like, oh, it's dismissed. But I have to go to court. I have to jump through all these hoops. And then they give me a warning for a taillight thing, and I fix it right away. Deerfield Police. And then they do the thing on my cell phone. They give me $160. I buy a holder for my phone. This phone is on a holder. But where are all these other people? I'm watching them Uber. They threaten my life. They damaged my car in Uber and Lyft and Via. Literally physically damaged exterior, interior. I was told they would take care of it. They have, these corrective actions in place that they penalize the client. I don't have to penalize the client. All I have to do is show the information to them, and Uber will take care of it for me. They puked in my car multiple times, Uber and Lyft. First a male, and he puked a shitload of mail. And then a female puked in my car when I was doing Lyft. Not as much. And then they leave phones and other things, and I return their phone to them. And I drop it off downtown. I drive all the way from Buffalo Grove into the South Loop area on Randolph, and I return his iPhone. And then I had other stuff that I returned to people. And do you know how much they paid me? $0. I wasn't on Uber. I couldn't even charge Uber for the trip to return the phone. If I'm returning the phone, why can't I bill them for my gas and everything else, just like a normal Uber trip? If I got to bring the phone back to you, then I should be able to get paid for that trip. But I'm here, a guy pulls in right next to me however he wants. But I should be able to get paid for that trip. But I leave my phone and I can't get a hold of Uber. And they steal my phone. And the driver says he doesn't. It was right in the back seat. Easy to find. And it had my credit cards and IDs. And I got to go down, and now I got to jump through all the hoops. They make my life, and I got, diabetes, arthritis, neuropathy, tinnitus, mental issues, physical knee injury, truly rebuilding. I get in my car this way, the way I do, to protect my knees, because I blew out my knees working for my brother. I injured the one and it injured the other. And so then on the right side, because of the breakdown first, I was sitting with my legs crossed, and I'll put this on Tumblr too. The outsides of your feet can go numb, and you can damage the nerves on the exterior of your feet, crossing them, sitting in that thing for too long. And I did 8 hours so within that, yoga thing. When you're bigger and you're heavier, that stance doesn't work. They're very light. So how much you weigh does matter when you hold certain poses, because of the pressure it puts on your nervous system, on your tissue. So on the right side of my foot, on the outside, I have nerve damage. So that affects me at times. And then I have other issues with plantar fasciitis in each foot. But I'm saying I got all this, and then I watch all these people break the law and do all this evil to me, and they just get away with it, get away with it, get away with it, get away with it. When is that going to end, and there's going to be justice and righteousness that these individuals will instantly be punished for their misdeeds? Because you're sure as hell, you repossessed my car, you took away my licenses, you've done all kinds of negativity to me, and there is no repenting, there's no remorse, there's no atoning, and you just keep every day doing more and more crimes against me. Every single day, day in, day out, day in, day out, crimes against me. And then I listen to these people getting, oh, they got a $36 million lawsuit. They got a $40 million lawsuit. They got $6 million. They got $8 million. They got $4 million. They got $1 million. The girl, I know, when she had the issue and got hit with, what's the name? She had her spine injured. She got a $20 million settlement from the city. And she's a relative. For her injury, the city gave her $20 million related to pain and suffering and everything else. And then punitive damages because they neglected to do maintenance on that. And she got a $20 million settlement to help take care of her in the future. And they didn't put it where, oh, you're going to live this sub-low life. You're going to live like a bum and a pauper the rest of your life. That's not with $20 million invested correctly. That's a lot of money per year. So it's $5,000 per 100, $50,000 per million at 5%. You invest $10 million, what is that? 500,000, right? Let's see, 10, and you divide it by 2, right? So every 2 is 100,000. So that's 500,000. So that's $1 million a year at 5%. You could live on $1 million a year with $20 million invested. $1 million per year at 5%. You get a 5% Roy Safety First. She's living $1 million a year lifestyle. $1 million a year. I don't get $1 million a year. But she does, and she accomplished nothing in her life. She wasn't some high-end this or high-end that. She accomplished nothing. She's a good girl, but still she hadn't accomplished anything. Working on things, but didn't accomplish anything. And so she can live $1 million a year lifestyle. Unbelievable. I'm going to leave this here, but how is this just in the way I'm living and what I'm suffering? And no one's hazing her. Everywhere she goes, people feel sorry for her. They're courteous and super courteous to her. They bend over backwards for her. Truly, I watched how everybody treated her with her injury and the disability from the injury. Her family, the Dardens, the Waltzes, my family on the Olsen side when they ran into her, treating her with tender love and care and respect and being so nice to Tyranny. I think that's her name. But unbelievably nice. And she's got about $1 million a year to live off of. That's a lot of money, and she can use that for any type of rehab she wants to make her better. And now they can repair spine injuries. So what was permanent before is no longer permanent. She's probably walking again. I guarantee she's walking again. So again, I just get screwed in incredible poverty, and then everybody disrespects me. Then I get to watch them violate the law all around me as well. It's maddening.